Hey everyone, it's Simone and I'm here again with Bella and we are entering the 59 and so this week's soul conversation is with the 59. Thanks to everyone for joining us and we so appreciate your comments whether you are on the live call or whether you're watching the recording. Um, Bella, talk to everyone about how they can participate if they're listening to the recording.
So what we're doing with Simone is that we're going through the transit. So right now we are in the transit of hexagram 59, gate 59, gene key 59. So if you have this gene key, gate, or hexagram in your profile, please, comment, ask questions. If you know somebody who has it, share the video with them. And just, we love to respond to your questions. I have questions, but it's always more fun when we are live to have your input. So don't hesitate to play with us.
Mm-hmm. So we're super excited to talk to the 59 today. Let's see what comes through. So the first thing that comes through is an image. Imagine that we're looking at, say, like a GIF of the sun. So like at the horizon, and so the sun is got peaks like this, and it also feels like a crown. So it's like a sun and a crown image that's radiating out energy. And as I said that, the 59 kind of raises up so I can start to see the crown on the head, the sun on the head. And he's kind of laughing, like he was playing with me. And as the sun rises up, I can see the 59's face and his smile and his laughing, that he's kind of got a playful energy with me today. And he, like, it's almost like he rose up out of the floor, and he actually is in this king's kind of robe, and he turns around in this big cape with his sun crown on his head, and he says, "The world is my oyster. There is nothing I don't love, because I love it all." And it's almost like this energy of, like, he doesn't know where he wants to explore first. It's so exciting. It's like a hunt, an exploration that is super exciting to him. And what I especially love, as the feeling in my body and as I'm watching through the 59's eyes, is that he doesn't have any judgment about anything. It's like everything is an opportunity with the 59. He's just super interested in what's available, what's out there, what does he want to explore right now, right here in this moment. There's no right or wrong, and it just all seems like opportunity. And he's saying that what he chooses to explore is an expression of the energy within him in that moment. And he shows me how he can be transparent with whatever energy that he wants to explore. And the way that he showed me that, it was like his energy went towards something and it became like a transparent slide, almost like old time pictures. You used to have the negatives that you would hold up, so it was like a little glass or a pane that went to that. It was completely transparent. And in the minute that he engaged with the energy he chose, he then instantly went to something on the other side. So it's like in a second, he knew, okay, I explored that, and now I want to move over here. And he doesn't have any judgment about himself for choosing something different. It's like in an instant, he had the energy, the energetic experience, and he knew, oh, I want to change here. No, and he also is showing me that in that instantaneous shift, he has no betrayal of the energy that he engaged with, because he engaged in complete transparency, in the spirit of exploration, in the spirit of playfulness. And he says it was the transparency that made the exploration possible. and also the pivot or the change possible. So he's saying that the transparency of the engagement is key to the truth of it. And he says that in that transparent alignment, he aligned with the truth of the energy he engaged with. And he got it instantly. He's telling me that part of why he pivoted was because the minute he engaged in truth with truth, he had that energetic alignment and he was already ready to move on to something else. He says, some of you want to stick around in your engagements a little longer. And he says, some of you want to stew. And he kind of shows me, like, when he says the word stew, it's almost like the pane of glass melts and it kind of becomes liquid and it circles the thing that it's engaging with. And he says, that's okay too. No judgment from me. He says, what I'm nurturing in you is the desire to engage in love and truth and transparency with whatever energy you wish to explore. No judgment. That's why you came here. And then he took his sun. When he said that, he took this sun crown, and the energy flew through everything. And so it's like the energy of the sun is everywhere in our fields, and it unites us um, in that light. And so now he's walking and he's taken off his cape and he was naked underneath it. And so now he's like naked. He's walking naked. He goes, well, that's the truth. That's the transparency. He says, I am courageous enough to be naked for all to see me. He says that I'm not perfect. You know, like he looks down at his body and it's not like an Adonis. It's just, like an average man who's walking naked. And he says that we're all naked. It's just whether we want to recognize that and to see the truth of who we are, and see the truth of who we are and who others are in our nakedness and in their nakedness. And he says that he's using the metaphor of nakedness because there's no boundaries or barriers that keep us from communicating at the heart. When you imagine yourself, he says, imagine yourself walking through one of your malls naked, and how much courage and fearlessness that would take, and how you would not have anything to hide from anyone else. And if you didn't have anything to hide, would other people start stripping down the barriers and the things that keep us from experiencing our whole heart? And then he dresses himself in a cloak of nature. It's almost like he jumped into a leaf or a shrub. He's got green, he's like in nature. He's dressed himself in nature. And he says, our true nature is in our heart. And it's almost like letting the aliveness inside of our heart through the metaphor of nature be literally the skin we wear, our true, our wholehearted nature. And then in this nature metaphor, it's like he's, when you go into a really lush landscape and you see there's just a wall of nature and how it's all entwined and it's all beautiful. And when we are our true nature, we allow others to touch us. And I think he's using touch literally and metaphorically there. It feels like, it's an intimate act to touch someone. And he says, especially in the times that we are in right now, people are touching each other less and less. And he says that that is, essential to life, is touching each other and being intimate, whether that intimacy is physical or consciousness, we need to remember to touch each other, with our hearts, with our physical vessels. But he says, never lose your sense of exploration and your sense of desire for touching. And when he says touching again, it's physical and consciousness. Bella, do you have some questions for him? He kind of stopped talking.
Yeah. Oops. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I have like some funny echo. I love it. I feel like I feel the combination of human design and gene keys, that in human design we kind of feel like it's this person who just wants to have sex, who just wants to like go out there and mate, and who doesn't actually care about the heart. It's all about finding a mate where it's kind of fun with, in a way, or not even fun with. It's actually more about the drive to procreate. And then in the gene keys we speak much more about the transparency, the intimacy, like even an inner sense of intimacy doesn't necessarily physical touch, right? Mm-hmm. So I love how there's both kind of the playfulness of like going out there and kind of wanting to have interaction and wanting to merge, not necessarily because of the highest, sense of it, but always this honesty of these are my motives. This is what, and I feel like we have a lot to learn from that. And I am thinking about friends of mine that are both like either in open relating or even swingers, and the fact that there's there's nothing hidden about it kind of makes just the energy so different. So I guess my question is about morality. Like, what does this archetype have to say about morality? What's morality to him?
Judgment. He says morality is judgment. It's perception. Mm-hmm. He was actually delighting when you first started talking, and he was saying to me that you got his spirit of exploration, and that he goes, you are a world of explorers. You all came to explore in physical embodiment. And so he says, by your very nature of consciousness coming into embodiment, you came to explore. And so to really embrace that spirit of exploration in whatever way you want to. And he says, to your point of morality, he says, when you overlay the construct of morality, and the overlay that he shows me, it really looks like a box made out of wires or fencing, with big, like kind of square holes and wires. And he goes, when you lay that construct over consciousness embodied, it limits the exploration. Sure, you can poke through or move through that construct, but if you're having to, if that construct is an overlay, it is a boundary, and it keeps you from your true nature. So
yeah, and we have a question that I kind of want to even show on the 59 experience for me has been about relating with integrity regardless of mistakes made, and the relevance of experience that in the moment versus over a lifetime.
Well, he's showing me the fractal patterns of that. So that the first thing he started with was the experience in a moment is a pattern that you may be able to trace over your whole lifetime. And he says not every person repeats the experience over the whole fractal of their lifetime. Some of them like shift. So you might have numerous patterns, or There's also the person who it's constantly a new one. It's like jumping from fractal to fractal to fractal. So he says there's not one way that it, depending on who you are as an explorer, is what you're going to choose for that. So uh, yeah, he says that there are really no, he doesn't see them as mistakes. He sees them as explorative experiences that you either want to replicate or you don't want to replicate. And so he says, in that sense, it's like it's not a mistake. It's like, okay, I tried this. I don't want to do it again. So he's kind of showing us that that there's not a it's not a mistake per se. It's just an experiment you don't want to repeat, an exploration you don't want to repeat, that you want to try and explore something else. And he says that when you perceive it as a mistake, there's some learning there, you know, that contrast helps you explore something different and change your exploration. He said, if you keep repeating it and it's the same pattern and you don't want to repeat it, then he says, then you want to kind of look at, okay, why am I repeating something that I don't want to continue repeating? He goes, there is some other work. So it's like the exploration, you know, he's cautioning you to not keep spinning that wheel or breathing down into that fractal, but kind of penetrate it in a different way, to like as a cross section, to understand, why am I repeating something that I don't want to keep repeating. He said, you know, there's that. I hope that helps.
Yeah.
Great question, by the way.
Yeah,
great question. That question.
I'm wondering, you know, we do speak also, both here and in Conscious Connection, we have been speaking about especially the 6-line sexuality. So if you have a 6 line in your unconscious moon or in your attraction field in the gene keys, that's really the sexuality that wants to merge on, or like with spirit. So it wants to merge on the physical, of course, the physical animal urge. It wants to merge from the human heart, and it wants to merge through spirit and like in the creator energy. So that's just one type of sexuality. So I'm wondering, when it comes to especially sexual experimentation, what does the 59 have to say? Because here, when we speak about the lines, the first line is like the preemptive strike or something like that in the line companion. So I'm wondering, you know, when it comes, what are the kind of, you know, guidelines? What would he suggest when it comes to a more that kind of exploration?
Well, he's saying be transparent. And he says the corruption is when you're not transparent. If that's the experience you want, be transparent about it, state it up front, so that the person that you're exploring with understands the truth of who you are and where you are in the moment. And he says then it might, your point of view might change. Maybe you enter into that exploration with someone, and you're the truth of who you are, and you're transparent in what you want, and they may choose, oh, that's not what I want, or they may say, yes, that's what I want, and then you may change your exploration or edit it along the way. And he says that's one of the toughest things, that when you enter an exploration honestly, transparently, from one point of, you know, one entry point, and then through the exploration, your ideas about the exploration change. He says it's to consistently check and recheck and be transparent as your consciousness evolves about what it is you want. But he says when you're transparent in your come from, in your exploration, there is no judgment. And he says some people, that's, you know, that's what they're designed for, experiment after experiment after experiment after experiment after experiment. And there are others who come for one experiment, one exploration. So he says we have the whole realm, and to put anybody or everybody in this is right or this is wrong, he goes, this question you're asking me ties back to the morality question, that we, you know, as humans, you've made people wrong for the type of explorations they want to choose and integrate. And he says if you remove that that grid work, that judgment, and if everyone allowed everyone else to explore in the way that most feels in alignment with them, then people would be more transparent. But he says part of the corruption is that people have been made wrong because of what they're transparent about. And so he says the more and more that you can shed those from your consciousness and not have, catch those overlays of judgment, the easier it is going to be for the collective to become more and more transparent in their explorations and partake in the explorations they really want to partake in transparency.
I'm thinking we're also saying that the deepest wound is the sexual wound, and that
Say again. I couldn't hear you. Yeah. I mean, he'll get it. I don't need to get it. It's okay. Just keep going. The answer will come.
So the deepest wound would be the sexual wound, and that would probably, if we are in wounding, then we were probably going to choose explorations that are maybe not in our highest, expression. So how can we know when we're exploring from freedom, and how can we know when we're exploring from wounding?
He's bringing in some other gene keys. He's like, this is the point, and he shows me some other gene keys. It's like, this is what they come to help you transform. He says, my mission, my energy, if you will, is to show you how to do it. And there are other gene keys that are here to show you how to transform corruption. He says, but just aligning with this message will help you unlock your DNA and return to the perfection of your consciousness embodied knowing. And so, he says, I can help in that way by holding the vibration of transparency, of purity. Some might say non-judgment, but I'm not choosing to say it in that way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Carrie was asking something before. It was more like a comment, but it was, I feel that the context the person is dealing with is confusion of where they place their ideals to sex versus making love or true intimacy. Yes, judgment or perception, but it's confusion of true self-intimacy. What comes with, is there any comment?
Yeah, the way the 59 showed it to me is almost like a blur. He showed me a being, based on Carrie's example, like a being came in, and the inside of the being went like this. It shook, and so it was blurry, and it's like that person can't connect with or see. It's like driving a vehicle when the windshield, you can't see through the windshield, and you don't really know where you're pointing your car. He says when what's inside of you is blurred, is not clear, when you're not clear inside of yourself, that's the confusion. And he says, yes, I would work on, clearing the windshield, getting clear in yourself. He says, however, if you're unclear in yourself and you say to yourself, I'm unclear in myself and I want to have this exploration, and you say to the other person, I'm unclear in myself, I'm in a process of getting clear within myself, so I'm not really sure what I'm here for this exploration for. He says that's as transparent in the moment as you can be. And then he says, if you go through that experience and you come out the other end and you're like, I don't want to repeat that, it's to not make yourself wrong about it. It's to go back in and find out, okay, what made, was there any shaking that stopped? Is there any clarity that came through? If you realize that you don't want to repeat it, that's a clarity. Why is it that you don't want to repeat that? So instead of making yourself wrong, it's to go to a place of inquiry to get clearer and clearer. So you get clearer through the inquiry, whether it's the exploration or inside of yourself or with another person, but to make sure that you don't make yourself wrong, because he says it's the making of, it's every place, anywhere and everywhere where you make other people or yourselves wrong for your exploration. He says that is a shutdown of consciousness, and that just creates more blurring inside. I hope that helped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And do we have any other questions? There were some comments about expectations, and that often in relationship and in intimate relating might be something that creates anger or confusion.
Well, he shows me expectations as the energy of hidden. It's like hidden energy. So it's energy that's in there that a person is in a person's field that they're not willing to see. And the way he shows it to me is, it's like it's in a body, and it's almost like if you go into a house and you have a bunch of stuff you don't want anybody to see, and you put a tarp over it or a blanket over it, or you hide it behind a screen. He says that's what expectations are. He says they're hidden. It's hidden energy, or energy that a person is unwilling to see or unable to see. And he says that energy goes with you into the exploration.
Mm-hmm. And here we have, I don't know if this is a short one or a long one, but here we have Brandon saying the difference or similarities between the 12th gene key of vanity, discrimination, purity with the 59 gene key. So the 12th is the throat gate, and it goes down to the emotional center, meeting the 22, and it's a channel of openness. So it's not a sacral, like it doesn't come from the sacral center, but maybe there are some similarities or differences.
Well, he's showing me something that I think I've heard Richard talk about in his videos. But what he's showing me is that any gene key, especially keys like the 12, he says if you're vibrating at the level of discrimination, let's say you're really focused on the exploration with the 12th gene key, and you really work on your vibration. He says that vibration affects all of the other gates or all of the other gene keys. So he says we're not. He says we don't exist in a vacuum. We're not mutually exclusive. We're always all working together. It is a fractal. So if you're working intentionally, if your exploration is with the 12 and you're playing at the vibration of or exploring at the vibration of discrimination and purity, he says, of course, that's going to, in the holographic field, affect what you're experiencing with me in the 59. So he says, he says, we don't see each other as mutually exclusive. We are a unified field, if you will, or collective of consciousness. And he's also showing me that people's awareness go in that field. So he shows me a geometry for the 64 gates, gene keys, I Ching. And he shows me that in that holographic field, that someone's attention might go to vanity, discrimination, purity. They don't even have to know that's the 12th gene key. They might just as a theme be thinking about in their lives, I think I need a little more discrimination in my life when I'm choosing. He says, there are people who focus on purity as a theme in their life. They don't, their awareness isn't even on gene keys, human design, I Ching, any of that, but it's in their field, and they're in their own field working through these things, and that's where their consciousness goes, and it will help them vibrate at a higher level, in the 59 and in the other places in that holographic field. That was a long answer, but it makes sense, what he's saying.
Yeah, no, I love it. you're saying with the things, with everything that in our chart, we are going to have different lines, we're going to have different keys, and it's absolutely, it works all together and more and more. I mean, I've been listening to all the webinars of the Venus sequence yesterday, and I just realized that we are such a incredible mix of all the lines, all the gene keys, and more the profile kind of falls away. And I was looking at an image this morning too about the Saturn sequence that Richard speaks about, which is the Venus sequence. So all about relationships, sexuality, intimacy, wholeness. And it just looks super different. I think I'm going to post it here afterwards because it has so many more spheres, and it has like an outer like star and an inner star. So I see Brandon was also commenting something about the 12th together with the 60th, together with the line 2, and how they melt together. And that's the magic. That's why, and that's, I guess, why the exploration is also never ending, because we can always thread in new ways.
The 59 brought my awareness. I just kind of glanced over, and I tried not to look at the comments because I'm focused on my connection with the soul of the 59. But he brought my eyes over to the comments, and it landed it right on the word inquiry. And he's thanking Brandon, for really demonstrating his point that, when you use inquiry, it's not about judgment. It's about finding out more. It's the energy of exploration, which it really relates. He brings the energy of inquiry right into his heart. So lovely comment. Thanks for that, Brandon.
Carrie, we love your comments. Don't stop writing. But I guess we are over half an hour. We do have a lot of people watching right now. So if you're watching and have a question, just, you have the opportunity to ask something about the 59 before we wrap up. Simone, is there anything else that you feel wants to come through?
Oh gosh, I'm just suddenly flooded with tears. At 59 he's like so grateful that we are willing to communicate with him at this level. And he's just like flooding me with love. And I'm going to beam that out to everyone I'm going to ask my body to be a vessel to beam that out to all his love and gratitude for our willingness to inquire and to play with him. And it's in a sense, he's like, through this conversation and all of your questions, he showed me this image of, it's like we're helping him scrape the mud off of consciousness, off of what's been placed on the energy of the 59. And he says, you're helping me come clean and be clean so that other people in the collective, whether they know gene keys or human design or not, that they can experience this compassion and shed some of the judgmental structures that have kept people in bondage. And he's so incredibly grateful. And the energy coming out of my hands, I hope that you can feel it if that's how you engage with energy. But he's telling me, he goes, it doesn't matter if they can feel it or not. If they're here and they will integrate it in their DNA, and they will also shed. And golly, I'm just so grateful for that and so excited. Thank y'all for playing with us today with the 59. And I am so grateful to share his gratitude and ours. And I'm just saying thank you, 59. And he says it's his pleasure because he loves penetrating the field with us in openness and transparency. And he uses the word forthright. He says we're so forthright, and he loves that. So yeah, if there is, thank you, Oscar. That he brought my eyes and it landed on Oscar's comment. I feel, Simone. Thank you for that, Oscar.
Simone, I have a question. I want to actually bring up Isabella's. comment, because we have been speaking about probably, the judgment from other people, the judgment from society. And here Isabella is actually saying, how to not hold back from the exploration and playfulness from fear of the consequences. For example, the physical pain, or, like there is something else where it's not with the other, but it can be with ourselves, and maybe even, allowing us pleasure. And is there anything to say how to actually, open up for that without falling into the fear in the self?
He says the more transparent you can be with yourself and the other person you're exploring with. So inside of yourself, say, I recognize that I have this fear and I am willing to explore through this consciousness that I have. And then if you're playing or exploring with someone else, tell them that up front. Mm-hmm. Be transparent. They may hold the key that unlocks the pain, that strips it away from you. He says, just like you're unlocking and releasing the sludge from the collective that is on the 59 from judgment, he says, just so you can do it with yourself. He says, this is a perfect example of what I just shared with you, so that in being honest and acknowledging it, looking at it, and not being afraid to share it with the person you want to explore with. He says that is the most exciting explorations you will have. And he says for some of you, it will just simply fall away when you acknowledge it within yourself, and when you have the courage to be completely transparent with whoever you're exploring with. And then he says that for others, it'll unlock something that will unlock something that will unlock some. It's a constant stripping away of the judgments. And he says for some of you, it's lineages, that you're clearing. And for some of you, it's, not even this consciousness lifetime that you're in. So he says, just be with it and acknowledge it and love yourself through it. It's the best thing. He says, the best thing I can share with you. And you will start stripping the sludge away. And this whole time I've been holding my hands up. It's like he's showing me the fractal, and we're just cleaning sludge. We're just letting it go, letting it go, letting it go.
This is just a comment that I thought was beautiful. Thank you, Carrie Ann. I feel that the codon ring of union, so this is Jinky 7, Jinky 4, Jinky 29, and Jinky 59, the ones that we have been in all 4 now, that you can go back and watch if you want to. So the ring of union is not fully transcended until we can fully be transparent with our presence and acceptance of all that has transpired from the seeking exploration of our desires. I just felt that was super, super beautiful.
He kind of did. He's playing with us, right, y'all? So he goes, preach, preach, like, he's right with you. And now he's laughing. He appreciates that you appreciate his sense of humor.
Yeah. Well, thank you. We are in the 38th minute, and I loved when I saw that one of the keynotes that Richard was using before using the gift frequency of perseverance was effortlessness. So there is something here where there is an ease there. It's supposed to be easier. Like, we do often put a lot of kind of thought and struggle and fear into that, but maybe it is supposed to be in this human body. Like, isn't it supposed to be more effortless to be transparent, to be intimate, to explore?
Absolutely. And he says, the more exploration you do, the more fun you will have exploring. It's when you come from is transparency. And he says, the more you explore in transparency, in wholeheartedness, through the spirit of inquiry, from the spirit of acknowledging, he says, the exploration will be a beautiful, fun, grace-filled experience. And he's just so happy to play with us today. This is the 59 to me in my body. As I'm doing this soul communication, I'm filled with joy in my body. Like, I love the spirit of the joie de vivre in my physical vessel as I've been doing this communication. It's just, it's so lighthearted and so open, and I'm grateful for that energy in my field today too. So it was super fun.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we hope you'll be with us next Monday and continue this journey of soul communications. And I'm just saying goodbye and thank you to the 59 and just asking, and he's just surrounding us in love. And just so grateful for his holding us in this space of love today and sharing his love with us. All right. Thanks for joining us. Take care, everyone.